regarding Yemen and every nation, regarding Yemen in relationship to geographical uh, impositions on every nation from a shared enemy, not from the source of one, keeping everyone. So we're in relationship to logistical impositions, in relationship to internation sciences that tactically degraded the area states and internation shared in nature of sciences. That means by the quality of fact treatment nature that was revealed, by the semi nature of the identity of space, Allah coming through temporary space nature. Jesus Christ is about correlation too. By this, this Trinity, it has a relationship to itself that is positive or negative in relationship to our identity, in the relationship to it as value as nature. And there is only one value as nature at the same time, which will stay that way, which is positive value nature's progression here, which will only stay, or is it forced from here, as it will only stay if it's not positive also unto itself. Three ways. But see, this is what the ancient snow people are revealed to teach. But those three ways have to be together simultaneously, because they're bonded onto themselves by the identity of space coming through temporary space nature, with as a forever nature, three natures of forever nature, gaining in value. Inherent one, actively, this one that is the value, is the phenomena of the value of physical nature's physical progression, and distinctly here with Earth, where everything could be in demonstration of this clear body of value, the identity of space, coming through temporary space nature. Radical correlation. Jesus Christ is about radical correlation at the same time. There are proofs that there is tactical obfuscations maintained through all areas in relation to this. So divide and conquer human fact treatment nature, a shared victim reaction wrong, because as victim Oz, even kings. And this is how nations were forced to share markets positions for shared police, and no one can talk about that. So if you can't talk about that, everything is connected, everything. And before criminal internation persuasions, there was a nature of sciences to all areas, and as the sciences have revealed this, in other words, and then there was database tied crimes, not just letting free speech, pretending there was free speech, and writing other in databases, and we have this through time, and that's within as crimes that are evidence crimes, formal. And what facilitated them, motivated it originally, was not prejudice. It was slavery laws against everyone, including our founders, especially regarding them, because they were forced, just like everyone, to theater, to pretend passions and stuff like that. And with the sciences, with social sciences, mental health sciences, a part of pretending other. And see, so then we have interbranch, private, and everything, and interscience, everything juxtaposed with brackets with them. But that was his setup beyond this. So now there's so many problems and so many live progression cover-up natures also facilitated to methods of crime that they share, not letting reported originally and progressed. Like how many crimes were attached, they say slavery. It's every day, all kinds of different acts of extortion. It's like unbelievable. You know what I mean? That you can't. So they just combine. That's what that Oz was built for, tactical, because it's worse than that. You know what I'm saying? And or at least too, especially, it's worse than what is defended as counters to it with fact treatment wise, because everyone's a victim predator to sense first pseudosciences, tactical pseudosciences, in relationship to a tactical ulterior from actual value nature system that knew that the sensibilities, Sense and Sensibilities, a book by Jane Austen, I never read it, regarding the that was a term in relationship to criminal insidiousness nature, which is in relationship to statutes and understandings of the law and of the cause of criminal insidiousness nature that was more sophisticated in ancient times. Before this, in other words, there are proofs of it because of the nature of the republic we inherited from ancient times, and how we're so divided now in naive fact treatment nature, because we're on a tactical ulterior from natural value nature system, stacked to see with our eyes, a tactically forced, progressed, tactical denatured, stacked this way, blaming on other and on others. That's the only reason we have not let evolution, which is what this science was really originally about. Because when we have this bond, which is three bonds, is the phenomenon of appearing to be, or of being three bonds onto themselves, as one, onto itself. Because only a semi-nature of the identity of this forever nature, only part of it is in temporary space nature. It's already progressed volume. Might, it means to hold the value of all space together, one system, but with the value nature progression, physical value nature progression forced here, concentrated here. That's what's the bond to matter, but the distinct bond, the value nature system that's shared to all nature will only allow the volume of consciousness here, of identities being progressed through the phenomena of the diffusion of the same thing that bonds at the same time. All matter is the same thing as the active, the middle plus sign on the ancient snow people. Is the same thing as the positive plus sign on the right, coming right to left on the ancient snow people. See, but now right to left overall, we're a top-down nature, which is negative value nature, because we're not the identity of space. We're not its discernment. In other words, everyone agreed where and as in relationship compared to war, pseudo-peace, and naive peace, pretended stability, incapable of being, litigating with nuclear weapons and with our free speech, because this is attached to them at the local level. I'm not even a lawyer. I'm not a criminal. At the local level, I'm not a police form. At the local level, same thing. How they were motivated is relationship to databases, fact treatment rackets. In relation to everyone's a victim, blaming on other and others so long as invested this way through time. In other words, that's why not real science not only formally was made, motivated originally, and still cultivated, exploiting what it's blaming on other formally, and through the tactical ulterior from natural value nature system. So they have the deck game with a fact treatment racket where everyone was tactically pseudo-educated and trained to a criminal insidiousness nature that can only be is hurt if it doesn't think through business first, not truth and not true sequence. Now what this is doing is hiding only let realized experts in each science areas maintained and now online maintained formally criminally foreign influenced. In other words, they have investigations and investigators to all areas still in collusion with only realized juxtaposed overtly criminal insidious natures in acts, like predicate acts, like wrongdoers, and in relationship to unrealized ones, in relationship to this juxtaposed with and as branches, realizing they know, I mean, it's that they're legalized criminal insidiousness natures, but it's criminally legalized criminal insidiousness. It's criminal insidiousness nature, and they don't understand criminal insidiousness nature because they had only realized victim predator agencies roles. Every single modern nation together, so they're blaming on others. That's why no one can value the first part of the sequence of the crime. No one's understanding the value of it. No one's appreciating. Everyone's trying. Same thing with the Old Testament. Decipher. The Decipher says, it says right there, you only need to understand this part about the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. See, Adam is the subject, Eve is the verb. The predicate act is associated. Predicate is associated with predicate value. And this is what we're going to talk about. There's identity of value, discernment. There's a ratiocination. We have a database racket and a crime method that was set up to keep each modern nation, blaming this on others, keep everyone from all areas. So in other words, this is how recorded we had and have our own agencies, directors, like Director Luskin, recorded and progressed involved with the rest of the recorded child predators. Through time, confessed and recorded by, in other words, a federal criminal who had a daughter in my grade, was a co-defendant of his. In a case part of a case tied to a case that was in the 9/11 context. They also witnessed fabrications tied to them with things like this. And this is also how they were motivated to this through time, through database crimes against everyone into that in schools and stuff like that, through the investigators and through investigations with and how they originally instated all these natures of criminal enterprises, legal, overtly criminal, and uncharged, uncharged. To keep criminal insidiousness nature, life progression cover-up needed, and styles needed and self-defended, with and as the value of opinion nature, breaching rules. That's what slavery is about. It's about it's still uncharged. It's about the awes and the crime method to keep those awes. So we can't deal with sense. And so there was the sequence shifts and the methods doing this show it. See, we have courts inclusion within other nations' courts because we had never, before our founders were born, this was already internation here, forced. And like England could only survive like any other people. They had to play in a tactically through a shared markets positions. Now tactically ulterior from the space natures with everyone a part of it now understanding. Bankers and stuff like that all measured, but they're dealing with and as knaves, everyone. And with and as sophistication only in relationship to only realize areas and states, sabotage, hurt each age of fact treatment nature. So, and this was set up to keep pseudo care against that, and to keep correlation nature. We'll come to the difference between the correlative conjunction and the coordinating conjunction, which is the identity of space itself. And we'll see the obfuscation of each. We'll come to the obfuscation of each of the sciences because they share an identity. So I'm not a lawyer, but this is about criminal insidiousness nature. And this is also about simultaneous right to left and simultaneously left to right identity and demonstration of itself per science coming through temporary space nature. So Allah's name is used to teach this with English. And about what's coming right to left from the other side of the Z as our value as temporary forever nature coming left to right and starting with the A. Why is alpha different than Allah if it stands for the same thing? Because Allah is value A as the part that was already value before the diffusion of matter, that bonded matter. Because this is the way it's progressing the value of its identity onto itself simultaneously, inherently, actively, and progressively. So then where and how in this temporary space nature only part is in it of the identity. That part too is manifest as inherent, active, and progressive value bonded together. So, as this is from our perspective, there's a progression. But that progression is the nature itself that was here before temporary space nature. It's the same value nature system, but the physical value progression is concentrated here. But see now, this one species led it to degrade it too long. Lethal IDs, force-based nature transfer, positive relationship to itself as forces negative value nature, which is negative to us, but that's positive. That's just going to force negative value nature progression somewhere else now, and then for positive value nature progression somewhere else. But right now, in other words, the rest of nature still has no criminal intonation persuasions, but through us. I'm saying the Earth before modern nations was tactically denatured, and then for theater, for landscape theater, where and how it's not overtly tactically denatured, not just what we could agree is tactically denatured, like our cities. So science, worse than didn't represent that, and with and as fact treatment nature, motivations and roles, with and as formal database and private. Mental health is with many people just stacking database. In other words, with investigators only realized reliant on mental health investigators who are also mental health experts, and what they do, they just evidence fabricate. So they don't put anything in writing. This is in conjunction their roles with courts and with prisons, with database crime roles and natures together that were lifted to need to hide personal and group and roles with internation rackets within as this, and blame it on others. And not by accident. So this is how they were. And they're with technology and stuff like that. They just write down the name of the technology, put quotes, and pretend it recorded things. We have, through time, now free speech not defended. What needs to do that, as all different kinds of police forms, that was originally, and it's still progressed to means to cover it up. And that was studied by the devil with colonization, this organized crime breaching method, and how they were covering it up. And that was perfected, the science of a breaching method. And this is how the motivations for roles with the Trade Center attack that were pretended groupthink. And this was his roles with fake and or real news, recorded, involved, facilitating predators against each age of fact sheet nature, then going in with theater, like little cheap tricks, cheap surface things like with elderly homes and stuff like that. They will not correct the fake news, even though it's recorded, even though it's tied to Trade Center to corruption, like with Connecticut media, WFSB, Fox CT. And with their police private and formal. And say that, and this is in conjunction with the schools attaching everyone to roles with database crimes, where everyone's trained to rely on the information of other people, like investigators. that are with our agencies and with their family members recorded and progressed, involved with areas maintained, and now with online maintained, because they have the investigations, and the investigators are involved with online crimes used with sequence shifts, involved with database crime stacking, directing it through time in courts databases. So they had cultivated roles and motivations together in relationships they won't let reported. So there's an offensive movement against free speech not let reported. They pretend writing was transferred through time. It never was. The police departments and all kinds of fire departments recorded with wire crimes, sequence shifts with that, tied to with child predators. Further ones recorded. They did this recorded sequence shifts, evidence fabrication to hide one in the past. They arrested me for harassment, doing that, not showing how many times he called, and hiding further confessions and further recorded child predators and confessions from others tied to this with the same people and with the same schools. And with Sandy Hook investigators and doctors too recorded. Before they put me in a jail tied to it, they were recorded with the same child predators crimes, with the same online crimes, with schools, Facebooks, because they have the business of this with it, like with court police and stuff like that, through the times, through their family members, areas maintained, cultivated against people who are going to come with correlation. They're keeping everyone just raised as a criminal insidiousness nature that can't think, because no one's thinking at top. They're plotting. That's why we don't. And then they're saying there's science. That's and evidence is crime. And then they have laws. They're recorded offensively against. Why there are the reason and needs for laws to have fake news discerned distinctly from real news. And so they have multi-front. Then they make through time. They pretend that they're about free speech, but formally, the people formally with the most educated are behind fake free speech care and natures of it that are keeping everyone need to counter that. At the same time, then when people with not good stuff, then they're supposed to debate people who can't put anything on record, but they censor them and things like that. And or because they want to interpret everything with sense. They can't take sequence true. They can't take it because they have to fake. So they need passions offensively forward. This was motivating original interbranch. It wasn't prejudice. In fact, see, so in other words, we have a breaching organized crime to counter. Excuse me, I didn't even take a shower yet. We have a breaching organized crime to counter. And not only is this area of space maintained. So the way the churches and the temples and the mosques, the way they're interacted and trained to interact with police and with training and with campuses. See, there's two reasons for training things, because for safety. But this is a crime method. When I said how people were going to, while they trained the science of how they were going to hide it, it was with and as the only people capable of doing safety, and it was even with and as crime method to keep them, others looking like the knaves, and them, the ones that are keeping everything with fact achievement racket rules against everyone. And now this makes everyone hurt, and having to react to what it is facilitated to collusion, but not by any of the individuals to get themselves as wrongdoers, as worse, and with as predicate acts, roles with others, cover-ups with others, like mail fraud, and there's no place to report it because police forms our inclusion together with and as the value of other nations' police here, but within and as the value of them together. Each nation raised like this. Our nation fell to this last, but still, it was already here entrenched internation before our founders recorded enslaved fact treatment natures. American history is really easy if you do it, if you write. You have to teach about the nature of the fact treatment nature, slavery of our founders that was recorded, and they wanted us to demonstrate. They didn't even hide their roles with the Constitutional Convention after it. That means they had to pretend sensibilities too, because that's why the rules were so crazy, the laws. And everyone could only understand it behind the background, thinking, oh, because they wanted to blame on other. I mean, they blamed it on because they want us to not understand it. They would agree, and with that, they were blaming it on other things and on others, and that was being studied, and that was being used as us as a fact treatment nature, because original revelations came from a nature of Campus Marcius that was with more integrity. It had treatments of the law when they knew about internation criminal enterprises before they were contained by it, and like with sophistication. They knew that prisons had to be you need Latin laws with English laws. Because in other words, you have to be able to write if you're in a prison and you shouldn't be in there, or if you're in there in the prison sick, and you shouldn't be in there at the same time. In other words, then you need also, so we have Latin statutes with the English language ones, which all come from the ancient republic, which is internation sciences that revealed English, part of it. And then this is more than just theory. And then they had Arabic statutes before sciences were criminally, before the birth of Jesus Christ, and then after him of the messenger of Islam. Thank God, together, multi-front counter that helped preserve the right to habeas corpus, which means the right to write. But it didn't help. But they have, rackets. That's just all nonsense. Because if you have someone locked up, you can torture them and stuff like that. And they have the means already recorded and enact with them with crime rolls with areas and with campuses like Sandy Hook, Newtown, and then with fake news with them too. They have doctors already recorded with online crime rolls with investigators tied to the roles of sequence shifting with courts. Database illusion stacking against people through time, directing theater illusions to people, pretending, relationships to people and their parents to other kids that never even were. In the past, in the records, there was a Judge Smith that yelled out something like, it was my fault or something like that, when people I didn't know came up to me and told me to go, when I was a little kid, whatever. And some other kid, they admitted it, threw a thing and smashed the window. But first they had told me to do it. So then they had brought in court. And what they do, they stack things and narratives against people. And now, who was in the hallway with tricks with that when I was a kid too? Now it was recorded as an adult because the police were making rape threats. And with court police, and this was after, and it was before. Then they arrested me for harassment because they're trying to hide what they were recorded with further, and what they hid with that. And the news won't correct their fake news because they have private investigators in collusion with the regular police involved with that, which were already recorded and involved intercity police with intercampus crimes through time, having nothing to do with their undercover on and off campus relationships. They have deans recorded with the relationship. They're just keeping everyone as a standing lie, progression, cover-up nature, as a criminal insidiousness nature. So we're going to come to slavery's treatment treatments, but within the body of law as a body of value itself, is Allah, the identity of space. Per science, before the Quran, the Quran is about distinctly from the king, but at the same time, because each modern nation is in a trap, therefore I rap. If we can't treat with equality with this, it stays fluent through our nations. How? That's why the laws of Islam, we're supposed to understand this. Why they're so hard, because they're with a very insidiousness enemy, and in relationship to modern nations, each with nays. For example, with nuclear bombs, with treatments of wars by the only people that speak for fact treatment nature, human fact treatment nature. So they're with so it's a database fact treatment racket, offensive, lie and just write other, not let free speech. We're still abridged because it was forced from a tactically denatured value, a relationship to nature, tactically blamed on other, cultivated that way, propagated that way. And then through the sciences, areas maintained this way. And then within as branches, and then within as juxtaposed industry for the fact treatment bracket. The whole time everyone else blaming, and all the roles blaming other and blaming others. And this was intercultural, an archetypal criminal enterprise. That's why they put the white and black in there for a perpetual means to keep, many means to keep perpetually pseudosciences caused negative value nature progressions and acts in collusion with the branches, in collusion with and as a tool of a breaching method fluent through our nation. It's not about money. It's about fact treatment racket. No one wants that. No one wants this relationship to space nature uncharged. It was with slavery's laws. No one wants not the slavery laws that way worse than witch trials. They blame that on. You know why they have people that say, oh, it was because they were high on drugs. That's the kind of knaves we have as legal natures. Inclusion with medical corruption with courts and with prisons recorded through time. Also gained through areas. See, each age of fact treatment nature is a target of a method of crime that is stayed uncharged because it cultivated other methods and natures of crime only let realized victim predator fact treatment nature, blaming negative value nature progressions and blaming their acts on other and on others, even when and how they are the acts of other. In other words, all the mass shootings in areas